Royal weddings are supposed to be flawless, controlled, elegant, and almost untouchable. But what if some of the most iconic royal brides actually went too far, and the world noticed? Behind the sparkling tiaras and historic gowns, there's a side of royal fashion that rarely gets talked about. Dresses that were called excessive. Looks that broke centuries-old traditions. Moments that left critics, insiders, and even fans quietly questioning what they were seeing. And in some cases, the controversy didn't just stay about fashion. It sparked debates about respect, status, and what it really means to represent a monarchy. Because when you're marrying into royalty, every detail matters. The fabric, the fit, even the expression on your face. It all gets dissected in real time by millions. And sometimes, one decision is enough to turn a fairy tale moment into a global talking point. From gowns that were labeled too dramatic to choices that completely ignored royal expectations, these brides didn't just walk down the aisle. They sparked reactions that still get discussed years later. And trust me, some of these moments weren't just surprising. They genuinely shocked the world. Princess Diana, the dress that was too much. And if you think royal wedding fashion has always been perfectly balanced, Princess Diana might be the first to prove otherwise. When Diana stepped out in 1981, the world didn't just see a bride, they saw a spectacle. Her ivory taffeta gown, designed by David and Elizabeth Emanuel, came with a 25-foot train, the longest in royal history at the time. It filled the carriage, spilled out behind her, and instantly became one of the most recognizable bridal looks ever. But here's the part people don't always talk about. It didn't go exactly as planned. As she arrived at St. Paul's Cathedral, cameras captured something unexpected. The dress was heavily wrinkled from being crammed into the carriage. What was meant to look regal and flowing appeared crushed in places, and critics quickly picked up on it. Some fashion commentators later described the design as overly theatrical, saying it leaned more toward fantasy than timeless elegance. Even years later, discussions continued about whether the dress crossed the line from iconic to excessive. Royal insiders have hinted that the scale of it all didn't quite align with the polished, controlled image the monarchy typically prefers. Still, Diana's look became legendary, but not without raising eyebrows. And that's what makes it so interesting. The very thing that made her unforgettable is also what made people question it. But if Diana's dress was seen as too big, too dramatic, and slightly out of control, the next royal bride shocked people by doing the exact opposite. Meghan Markle, breaking royal tradition. Because when Meghan Markle walked down the aisle in 2018, the reaction wasn't about excess, it was about absence. At first glance, her Givenchy gown looked strikingly simple. Clean lines, no lace detailing, no heavy embellishments, just a structured silhouette and a long veil. It was modern, minimal, and completely different from what many expected of a royal wedding dress. And almost instantly, it divided opinion. Some praised it as refreshing and elegant, but others weren't convinced. Critics pointed out that the dress appeared too plain for such a historic occasion. There were also widespread comments about the fit, particularly around the shoulders and bodice, with some claiming it looked slightly loose or unfinished in photos. Then came the deeper layer of discussion. Her veil, embroidered with flowers representing Commonwealth countries, was seen by many as symbolic and meaningful. But at the same time, it sparked debate about whether such a statement was appropriate or subtly political for a royal wedding. And beyond the dress itself, there were persistent reports in the media suggesting behind-the-scenes tension during the wedding preparations. While never fully confirmed, rumors of disagreements over fittings and final designs only added to the narrative that something wasn't entirely smooth. What made this moment stand out wasn't just the dress, it was how it challenged expectations. Meghan didn't follow the traditional royal bridal formula, and for some, that was the problem. But while her look sparked debate for being too understated, the next royal bride became the center of attention for something far more unsettling, and it had nothing to do with the dress itself. Princess Charlene, the cold bride look. Because sometimes the controversy isn't stitched into the gown, it's written all over the expression. And that's exactly what happened with Princess Charlene in 2011. On paper, everything about her wedding to Prince Albert II of Monaco seemed flawless. Her Armani Prive gown was elegant, structured, and widely praised by fashion experts. It featured clean tailoring, delicate embroidery, and a long, graceful train. Nothing excessive, nothing out of place. But as the ceremony unfolded, Attention quickly shifted away from the dress and onto Charlene herself. Viewers around the world began noticing something unusual. Throughout the ceremony, her facial expressions appeared serious, even emotional at times. Photos and footage showed moments where she looked visibly tense, and in some instances, close to tears. It didn't take long for the internet to react. Almost immediately, speculation circulating online. Some claimed she looked unhappy. Others suggested there might have been pressure behind the scenes. It's important to be clear, none of these claims were ever officially confirmed. But that didn't stop the narrative from spreading. Media outlets picked up on the story, and suddenly, what should have been a fairy tale moment turned into one of the most analyzed royal weddings in recent history. People weren't just talking about what she wore, they were questioning what she felt. And that's what made it so controversial. For a royal wedding where every detail is carefully controlled, this moment felt raw and unpredictable. But if Charlene's moment showed how emotion could spark global conversation, the next royal bride would do it through a bold personal statement, one that challenged tradition in a completely different way. Princess Eugenie, the backlist statement. And after a moment that raised questions through emotion, the conversation quickly shifted to something far more intentional. Because Princess Eugenie didn't just wear a dress, she made a statement. When Eugenie married Jack Brooksbank in 2018, her gown initially looked traditional from the front. Designed by Peter Pilato and Christopher DeVos, it featured a classic silhouette, long sleeves, and a modest neckline. But as she turned, the real message became clear. The dress dipped into a low back, revealing a long, visible scar running down her spine. This wasn't a mistake or a design risk, it was completely deliberate. Eugenie had undergone surgery as a child to correct scoliosis, and she chose to highlight that part of her story on one of the most watched days of her life. For many, it was a powerful and inspiring moment. People praised her confidence and honesty, calling it a rare example of vulnerability within the royal family. But not everyone saw it that way. Some traditional commentators quietly questioned whether it was appropriate for a royal bride to break from expectations of modesty. There were debates about whether such a personal statement belonged in such a formal, symbolic event. And while the criticism was far from universal, it was enough to spark discussion across media and online platforms. What made this moment stand out was the intention behind it. Unlike accidental wardrobe mishaps or subtle design critiques, this was a conscious choice to challenge what a royal bride should look like. And it worked, because people are still talking about it today. But while Eugenie pushed boundaries through personal expression, the next royal bride faced criticism for doing something almost opposite, going all in on tradition, yet somehow still being called too much. Crown Princess Victoria, the over-the-top royal look. Because when Crown Princess Victoria got married in 2010, the expectation was clear. This would be a classic royal wedding, rooted in tradition. And that's exactly what she delivered, just not in the way everyone expected. Her gown, designed by Pairing Sheedon, featured an off-the-shoulder neckline, a structured bodice, and a dramatic flowing train. Paired with the historic cameo tiara, the entire look leaned heavily into royal heritage. It was elegant, regal, and unmistakably grand. But that level of grandeur didn't land perfectly with everyone. Some fashion critics argued that the dress felt too traditional, almost outdated for a modern royal wedding. In a time when many European royals were beginning to embrace sleeker, more contemporary styles, Victoria's look stood out for holding firmly onto the past. There were comparisons to older royal weddings, with some suggesting it lacked innovation or personal flair. Others, however, defended the choice, pointing out that as the future Queen of Sweden, her role demanded a certain level of formality and symbolism. The dress wasn't just about style, it was about continuity, identity, and representing centuries of monarchy. And that's where the debate really took shape. Was it a respectful nod to history, or a missed opportunity to evolve? That tension between tradition and modernity is what kept this moment in conversation long after the wedding ended. Because sometimes, even doing everything right can still be seen as going too far. But if Victoria's look sparked debate for leaning too heavily into royal expectations, the next bride found herself under scrutiny for something even more complex. Her identity, her past, and how it all showed up on her wedding day. Queen Letizia, the non-traditional bride. And that brings us to Queen Letizia, a royal bride who didn't just challenge fashion expectations. She challenged what it meant to even become royal in the first place. When Letizia married King Felipe VI in 2004, she wasn't a princess by birth. She was a former journalist, a public figure with a career, a voice, and a past that didn't fit the traditional royal mold. And naturally, that made her wedding one of the most talked about events in Europe. Her gown, designed by Manuel Perdigaz, reflected a very specific choice. It featured a high collar, long sleeves, and intricate embroidery, creating a look that was structured, formal, and almost severe compared to softer, more romantic bridal styles. It was regal, but also noticeably restrained. Almost immediately, opinions began to split. Some praised the dress for its sophistication and uniqueness, but others felt it lacked warmth or emotional softness, describing it as overly rigid. There were even comments suggesting it felt more ceremonial than celebratory. And then there was the added layer of scrutiny surrounding Letizia herself. Because of her background, media coverage often went beyond the dress. Her past career, her previous marriage, and her transition into royalty were all placed under a microscope. The gown, in many ways, became part of a larger narrative, one that questioned whether she fit into the royal world at all. It wasn't just about fashion anymore. It was about perception, identity, and expectation. And that's what made this moment so powerful. The dress didn't just represent a bride. It represented a shift in what royalty could look like. And when you step back and look at all of these moments together, a pattern starts to emerge. Royal wedding fashion isn't just about beauty. It's about pressure. It's about walking a line so thin that even the smallest decision can spark global debate. Whether it's a dress that's too large, too simple, too emotional, too revealing, too traditional, or too different, someone will always say it went too far. From Princess Diana's unforgettable train to Meghan Markle's minimalist statement, from Princess Charlene's viral expressions to Princess Eugenie's bold scar reveal, each moment tells a deeper story. And when you add in Crown Princess Victoria and Queen Letizia, it becomes clear that there's no such thing as a perfect royal look. Because perfection in this world is constantly changing. What one generation sees as elegant, another might call outdated. What one person views as bold, another might see as inappropriate. And in a setting where millions are watching, every choice becomes magnified. So the real question isn't whether these royal brides went too far. It's whether the expectations placed on them were impossible to meet in the first place.